College Collaborative at San Diego State University. So I'd like to start by introducing our agenda for the day. We'll begin with introductions and provide a brief overview of the webinar, which is what we're doing now. Afterwards, we'll introduce our three presenters, and then each of the presenters are going to spend about 15 minutes discussing the Minority Male Initiative that they direct at their respective colleges. And then we will conclude the webinar with the question and answer period that will be facilitated by me and Dr. Wood. There are several ways that you can engage with us throughout the presentation. One of the main ways is through Twitter using the hashtag M2C3. We'll be monitoring the Twitter feed throughout the webinar. And on this slide, you see that we have the Twitter handles for me, Dr. Wood, Kareem Moody, and Dwayne Reed. And if you'd like to be in touch with Felicia, you can email her, and we'll also be emailing the M2C3 email account, which is at the bottom of this slide. And without going further, I'd like to begin by introducing our three presenters. The first is Kareem Moody, who's the director of the Network for Student Success, a federally funded program designed to improve academic success rates for African American male students at Pulaski Technical College in Little Rock, Arkansas. In the past, Kareem has also been the director of the Youth Initiative Project, a City of Little Rock, Arkansas funded gang intervention program. He holds a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Communications from Henderson State University. He's also published. He's a published author of the text Raise Them Up, The Real Deal on Reaching Unreachable Kids, which was published in 2006. And he's also the recipient of the 2014 FBI Directors Community Leadership Award. And our next presenter is going to be Dwayne O. Reed, Jr., who's currently the project director of the Academic Acceleration for African American Males, the 4A program at Baltimore City Community College. He received a Bachelor's of Arts degree in History and Pre-Law from Columbia Union College in 2001, and an MBA degree from Columbia Union College as well in 2009. He went on to receive a MA in Public Administration in May 2011 from Washington Adventist University. Mr. Reed has been working in higher education since 2006. Prior to accepting his current post at BCCC in 2012, he served in various positions, including Associate Dean of Men, Associate Director of Admissions, and Director of Admissions and Recruitment. And last but certainly not least, is Felicia Ganther, who hails from Los Angeles, California. Felicia holds a Bachelor's of Arts and a Master of Arts degree from Norfolk State University in Virginia. She also holds a Juris Doctorate from the John Marshall Law School in Chicago, Illinois. Currently, she's completing coursework for a PhD in Business Administration at North Central University of Arizona. Felicia has previously served in various capacities at both the university and community college levels, most recently as the Executive Director for Student Life at the College of Lake County in Illinois. In addition to her work in student affairs, Felicia has also served as an adjunct instructor for speech, interpersonal, and group communication courses. She's also served as a certified mediator for the Center for Conflict Resolution in Chicago. And we're very pleased and fortunate to have these three esteemed colleagues join us in presenting this webinar. And at this time now, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Wood, who's going to tell you a little bit about M2C3, talk a little bit about successful attributes of minority male initiatives based on the research that we've done. And then from there, we'll transition to Kareem, who's going to get us started by talking about the program he runs at Pulaski Technical College.
All right, hello everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Luke Wood, and with Frank Harris, we co-direct the Minority Male Community College Collaborative, M2C3, at San Diego State University. And the collaborative partners with community colleges around the country to support their efforts in enhancing outcomes for historically underrepresented and underserved men, with a focus on men of color. And we do this through a number of avenues. Primarily, this is done through institutional level needs assessments that we conduct on campuses. One such tool that we use to do that is the Community College Survey of Men. And we also have other inventories. So after the webinar, if you're interested in partnering with us, please let us know. We'd be more than welcome to share some insights that we've gleaned from the campuses that we've partnered with, as well as help your campus in engaging in using data and inquiry to inform decision making. As part of our work, we have looked at successful minority male initiatives or male of color initiatives, and there have been several that have been really strong in terms of what we've seen in terms of their production. And so what we wanted to do is kind of highlight some of the things that we've seen that have been successful for these key attributes for these successful initiatives. First and foremost, initiatives that are successful in serving men of color are scalable, meaning that the interventions that they employ can be expanded to include a wide array of men. They're sustainable, meaning that there is some sort of mechanism in place to ensure that the program will continue. Oftentimes that includes dedicated and institutionalized funding and a transition plan for leadership, so that when a key person who is oftentimes leading the initiative moves on to other opportunities, that the initiative can continue. The programs themselves must be cost effective, and of course they have to be relevant. And we have some key points that we'd like to talk to you about that deal with that. One, we think initiatives really need to be tied to a larger strategic plan. For example, at San Diego State University, our strategic plan, embedded within it, has a focus on serving historically underrepresented and underserved students. And the working groups that have worked on that strategic plan have operationalized that as focusing on African American students. So as a result, the entire campus and resources within the campus are organized around these efforts because it's built into the strategic plan. Successful initiatives also have buy-in from key stakeholders. It's very difficult to run an initiative without support from the campus administration, oftentimes also support from trustees. And support needs to be widespread. It can't just be a couple of administrators or a couple of faculty members. Really, you need a comprehensive approach that includes administrators, faculty members, staff members, counselors, and students. We really believe that data should inform program designs. We believe in using inquiry to identify the areas that are impeding success for men of color. That includes factors relevant to the students themselves as well as relevant to the institution. We believe firmly in analyzing and examining institutional climates, messages that faculty and staff give to students, and the structure of resources on campus to ensure that whatever those barriers are for students, that the campus is working on remediating those barriers. We also believe in using inquiry and data to inform the continuation of program design. So using outcomes-based assessment to identify outcomes that aren't necessarily being reached, and then modifying the program design and moving forward. We believe that a key point of intervention must be both the students as well as the faculty and staff. A lot of programs will focus on just serving students, but what you'll see is with the programs that we've collectively brought to you, there's also a focus on identifying how faculty and staff members can better serve men of color, and then engaging with them in conversations on how to do that. We also believe that successful initiatives recognize that men of color have both race and they have gender, meaning that there's a need to recognize men and their masculinities. For example, one of the things that we do in our instrument is we measure men's perceptions of help seeking and whether they believe that seeking out help makes them weak. We know that men who respond to our instrument indicating that they are apprehensive to seek out help are less likely to use campus services, less likely to meet with faculty member, go to academic advising, go to tutoring. And so we believe that there's an important element that must be recognized, that these are men and that there's certain aspects related to their identities that have to be taken into account in the program model. And finally, we'd also like to highlight there's an importance to recognize that men of color are not one monolithic group. They are very different. They have different backgrounds in terms of ethnicity, in terms of culture, in terms of class, in terms of experience in prior levels of education. And as a result, program designs should be attentive to the differences within these groups and use that to inform their models in moving forward. So based upon that foundation, we'd like to go ahead and move forward and turn it over now to one of our first presenters, and this will be Kareem Moody from Pulaski Technical College.
All right, thank you, Dr. Wood, Dr. Harris. I want to first just point out that my name appears as Corey Anderson on the board, and I, for some reason, was unable to change the profile, so I am not Corey Anderson from the Rockefeller Foundation. My name is Kareem Moody from Pulaski Tech. And just talking about, the network, I know the Network for Student Success, and that's who we are housed here at Pulaski Technical College. And of course, our goal is graduation and retention of African American males. Just simply put, Pulaski Tech, the college, is located in North Little Rock, Arkansas, and I'm not sure how many people are familiar with some of the demographics of the South in general, but particularly Pulaski Technical College is one of the largest African American serving institutions in the state, and we have more African American males at our college than anywhere else in the state. We're kind of situated in an urban environment, if you will, so we get a lot of students that come from, the participating high schools, and some of the challenges of our students that come on campus, of course, test into developmental courses. Approximately 90% test into math developmental, and somewhere similar to 85 to 90% are into the reading developmental courses. So they come with a lot of challenges. Little Rock in general, has currently we're having a lot of murders and a lot of violence, happening. And so a lot of those students are finding themselves on campus, which present, a number of issues. Pulaski Tech, started to recognize the need to do something to impact what's happening with African American males back in 2009, graduating somewhere around 14% of the students as a whole, and African American males hovering around 9%, or close to 10%. And so the college, took it upon itself to say, hey, we needed to do something about this. And so Network was a grant that was written by some folks who were here on campus at the time. And so I stepped into the role as a director since then. We've done several things. One that I'd like to just kind of point out, and really I know some of the other presenters are going to talk about program specifics, and I know a lot of the actual programming pieces are similar as I talk to some of my colleagues around the country. But I want to really spend this 15 minutes talking about some of the challenges. I don't want to set it up to make it look like we do everything right, because I think one of the most effective things that people can know about in terms of trying to implement an African American male success initiative is that everything's not going to go right. There's no real rose-colored glasses. Sometimes you're going to have marginal success. Sometimes you're going to meet challenges. But, one of the biggest things I think is that you have to overcome, where does it fit on campus? And one of the reasons why we chose the name the Network for Student Success is because we recognize that everybody's not buying into the concept that African American males are in such dire straits. And of course, the statistics point to it. The data points to the need. If less than 10% of African American males are graduating, we have huge dropout numbers. Some of our theater schools are dropping out. On average, anywhere from 40 to 50% of those students, black male students, are not successfully completing on time. And so we wanted to create a space where we had buy-in, and we actually made a platform for other folks to be involved. And so we chose the name of the network, which kind of insinuates that there's a place for everybody. We're in this thing together. And myself as director, we have 4 what we call success coaches. And success coaches operate in the role of a case manager. And as case managers, we serve about 300 students. And so each case manager serves approximately 75 students. And we recognize that all students have different needs. And so we immediately started to break our students into groups, and we identified red, yellow, blue, green. And this is pretty significant because it helps us kind of streamline some of the services that we're able to offer to those various groups of students. And if you think about a student who fits into the green category, meaning he's ready to go, oftentimes they need very little help. And so they spend most of their time either on the phone or accessing transfer services, college tours, just really networking, because we know most black males, when they finish school, they're not going to have contacts, or they don't know where to go next. And so most of those students that we consider green are going to be either have started families, they're working, gainfully employed, they successfully learned how to navigate the college systems, and so they tend to go on and be successful, and they don't put a lot of strain, and that's where a lot of our college success comes from. That student that falls into the blue category, oftentimes he's well on his way. He's figured out how to make it through college. He's, probably in his third semester, somewhere around, he's probably 50 hours or more in terms of completions. He's, doing the things right. He doesn't necessarily participate in some of the negative or non-success issues on campus, and so he's on track. Yellow students, is probably where we spend the majority of the time. That's going to be your traditional college student, and in many cases, it's the student who comes from that red category, and he's managed to stay on campus. He's starting to figure out some things. He's been here for a couple semesters. He's probably got, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 hours, probably 15 to 20 hours have been completed. And he tends to go to class. He's learned how to make it in spite of extenuating circumstances. But the red student is the student that gets all the attention. Oftentimes, this is the unsuccessful student. In my opinion, and one of the things that we look at is that when students come to us in the red status, they're the ones who probably receive the cold shoulder, if you will. Just a quick note, I was talking to a student yesterday that I consider red. He has 10 felonies. And oftentimes we categorize, what category these students fall into based on their legal status, employment status, how successful have they been in school before, are they on suspension, are they returning from suspension, did they complete high school, and those red students tend to kind of drain the resources, if you will. And so oftentimes those are guys who we're looking for quick success. And so Pulaski Tech offering, roughly 50 technical certifications. Those students are typically going to be candidates for technical certifications, if you will. So we tend to help those students, navigate through that process. The network as a whole, as I mentioned, 4 success coaches, and everybody has very distinct characteristics. All of the coaches kind of work in different spaces. And one of the big things that we try to do is build those relationships on campus so we can help students just navigate through the campus resources and play on our relationships. So as we create a culture, one of accountability, but also, one where students feel that success is expected, we want them to have a safe space. So we have an office where students can come and have honest conversations about some of the challenges that they're having. We try to help them figure out, strategies that they can use to kind of navigate some of those in-class challenges. But then we also kind of work within that same space to give students the ability, if you will, to really challenge, some of the challenges, some of the issues that they come across. The network operates a couple of what we call PBI, college seminar first year experience courses. And these were AQUIP projects that we took on early on, and they've been successful over the last few semesters. And so a number of our students that we meet come through those courses as other first-year experience courses. But we work with other faculty to come up with different learning objectives from those courses that we can kind of focus on and reiterate within the network. So as students participate in those first-year experience courses, they're going to have a success coach that's working with them, and we've experimented and piloted a couple of projects where we have previous students participating in the class and kind of those supplemental instructor roles, or embedded tutor roles as we call them. And then we've also had network coaches teaching those courses, and so that's proven to be successful in terms of building those relationships and helping the network become a positive force on campus. Let me move through and just kind of put a couple of these slides here for you. Now, as I talk about some of the programs, and again, I mentioned that, I'll breeze through these because some of the programs on campus, we have what we call models of success, where we give students a chance to meet and come across other people in the community. So we bring successful, primarily black males on campus for students to interact with, to meet, to hear their stories, and hopefully inspire them to want to stay on campus. We work with the student life department to have, Freestyle Friday, which is poetry and music and some of those things, so that they can get a sense of belonging. And we really do try to work to foster that sense of mattering on campus, where you can see those students in a positive light. We teach tie-tying and those events where students learn how to tie ties. We have a clothes closet, helping students with that appearance. Oftentimes, many students come to us with, challenges around, the way they look or what their closet looks like. And so we have folks that donate, business attire, and students get a chance to, take on and wear, have access to those types of things. College tours is a big one. We try to help students make the transition. So once they've navigated through Pulaski Tech and they feel comfortable being here, it's a big challenge. And oftentimes we're trying to help students kind of to launch. And so getting them on campus, helping them connect on campus is a big part of what the network coaches do. It's getting those guys to see what other colleges look like, helping them make those positive connections on campus and hopefully move forward. We've also piloted a couple link courses where we're able to link students together and build those cohorts of students and support so that they can navigate through those classes with a common theme or common support base. And that's really one of the things that we're really trying to figure out, how do we build those courses for one, and that's one of our challenges. And we recently brought on what we call a PDI advisor to kind of help us focus on getting students into the courses that we know is going to help them and helping those students connect with the network day one, as opposed to once they're in trouble. I know we've had to overcome challenges of people assuming that we're just for students once they're in trouble. And so, by having someone in the advisor's office, that's going to, go a long way in helping us connect those students to the positive resources early on. And another big thing that I think that's been successful, one of our academic supports has been the tutoring program. Of course, the college has its own tutoring. And one of the things that we find is often our students report to us that they're not comfortable going to the tutoring because no one in the tutoring department really connects with them, particularly red students. And so this year what we've done is we've identified students who can tutor. And we try to have tutors that are successful in various subjects, but also tutors who can relate. And so that program has been one where students have gravitated towards because they feel that the tutors in there understand them, they speak their language, they can connect, they engage them. And so they've been participating in the tutoring program, and we're starting to see an influx of students who are making appointments and taking advantage of being in that space with those tutors. And across the board, just thinking through some of the numbers, retention is a big issue for us. And so, we've had, students that participate in our big trip. Recently, one of the incentives that we try to employ is that, we want students that are going to participate, and we try to put things out there that they can reach for. So students who are in their third semester are eligible to take a trip, and we travel to New York and DC every year. And all of the students that have gone on that trip have successfully completed. As a result of going through, and on average, we're retaining about 30% of those students from semester to semester. And so we feel that, when we're able to build those connections on campus, we create that sense of mattering, we create a space where students can have their questions answered, we build relationships with instructors. Because another big issue, I think, is that in a two-year college, oftentimes the instructors don't see successful black males. They don't get a chance to really build relationships with successful black males. And I think that's one of the roles that we feel as success coaches, is that we're also role models and examples for the staff. And a big part of it is faculty and staff have a chance to come to us and get questions answered. They have a chance to voice frustrations that they might have with students, and we can help explain things. I think that for other folks who are going forward with, success initiatives, I think those are some of the things that you need to be thinking about early on, is that black males do need a space on campus where they can be open and honest about the challenges that they face, and they do need people that are going to be able to understand and connect with them. Oftentimes, most people will look at students and see that he's dressed a certain way or he looks a certain way. And if you don't have a common sense of understanding, or if you can't relate to some of those challenges, then that student's going to be turned off. And so I think it's important to have people that are culturally competent in those positions and in that space so that they can help those students foster a sense of belonging at your college. But then I know the doctors mentioned, that key stakeholder, key administrative buy-in. And before my time is up, I really want to stress that for us, not only have we had, just a very supportive administration, but, as it trickles down to other folks around campus, it really does kind of come down to one-on-one, or what I call hand-to-hand combat, a relationship building from office to office, to where you really do have to help people overcome any prejudices they might have in regards to an initiative like this, or just with, young black males, because all the media points to the negative. And so we have to find ways for people to start to see the other pieces of it. And so we have a debate team that gives you a chance to see black males in a positive light. We sponsor chess programs where you can see black men thinking on a regular basis. We have what we call community conversations where people can come to the room and have discussions around issues that we face. We do award ceremonies and other success-focused initiatives. We have 3 career coaches that are in local high schools that also feed students to us, and so we do activities on those campuses and help bridge the gap. We're currently running our Summer Bridge program where students are on campus for 5 weeks, taking the first-year experience course and getting acclimated to college, and all of those students come to us through those career coaches in the high school, which is also proved to be another positive relationship where we get students connected and plugged into the network. So I think that's my time, so I'm going to pass that back over to you, Dr. Wood.
Thank you, Kareem. And should also note that we will have a recorded archive of the entire webinar available on our website if there's certain parts that you may have missed. I know some of you had to join late. So we'll have the recording archive available not long after the webinar. And I'd like to, at this time, turn it over to Dwayne Reed, who's going to talk about the 4A program at Baltimore City Community College.
Greetings, everyone. I just want to start by thanking Dr. Wood and Dr. Harris for the opportunity to be with you all here today. The 4A program at Baltimore City Community College stands for Academic Acceleration for African American Males. And this program began because at Baltimore City Community College, it's taking 10 years on average for African American males to complete the associate's degree. It's taking African American females 8 years, while it's taking other ethnic groups the average of 6 years to do that same degree. I want to advance the slide, Dr. Wood, but I'm not seeing the arrows there. Okay, thank you very much. The program was written by a group of individuals on the campus prior to my arrival. The grant was awarded to us for $2,370,800 by the U.S. Department of Education. It's a 4-year grant. We're in our 3rd year of the grant as we are at this moment. And so we've seen a good bit of success and outcome with the program, and we're going to share that with you in just a little bit as we move forward. If we could advance the slide. I want to talk to you a bit about the program design. Like Mr. Moody said earlier, there's a lot of things that we have in common. I heard him speaking about tutoring. I heard him speaking about the rap sessions or the community conversations. Our program is designed in a few different ways, and a couple ways that make it unique. First of all, we have a 6-person staff, so there's 7 of us actually all together. And I believe that for programs like this to be successful, it really does come down to the people that you have in place in the program. So I want to really strongly encourage anyone who's in the process of creating a minority male initiative or anyone who's interested, make sure that you have people who are passionate about the cause, because as was said before, not everyone believes it's an issue. Not everyone believes that we need to spend this money or this energy on that issue. The way we work here at Baltimore City Community College is we have 3 academic pathways for acceleration. We have a 2-year, a 3-year, and a 4-year track. And so our goal is to get every individual, every male that comes into our program out within 4 years or less. The distribution is that most of our students would fall into that middle track to get them out in 3 years or less. Developmental education is something that is also very important for us. High developmental education need, low developmental education success. And so what we try to do in this program is to really work with our students, put them on a track where they can be successful. Now, some of our classes are accelerated, but we never accelerate our developmental education because we really want our students to get that foundation. We don't want to rush them through to graduation like some of them had happen in high school when they really don't have the principles. So developmental education is very important for us. And one of the unique things that we do with developmental education is called a second chance program. The second chance program allows those students who fall into the D area in the developmental courses only. Their faculty would identify these students to us, and we would allow them to take a second chance program for 3 weeks or 4 weeks over the summer or at the end of the semester that allows them to retake the assessments that they did not pass throughout their term. And if they pass those assessments, we average those grades with their old grade, and if it gets them to the C, then they're able to go on to the next level without having to retake that developmental course in the next semester. So that's something kind of unique that we do to really help move our students along the developmental sequence. Also, we implement summer bridge and winter bridge programs for those students who take the AccuPlacer and don't do well. One of the things that we do in direct services that's really nice is that we have a textbook program and a bus pass program. Every student who is in our program receives free textbooks. Every student in our program who qualifies or who applies has an opportunity to have a free bus pass, and we usually give about 40 students per month a bus pass free of charge to them to help them get to and from the college, because we have a great public transportation system here, and we want to mitigate the ability or the lack of ability for students who cannot get here because they don't have their own automobiles or they simply don't have money for a bus pass. And it is that deep for our students. Our tutoring is prescriptive, and it's a little different here, which means that the faculty member or the instructor has to say this is the problem that the student is having, and based on that prescription, the student is sent to the tutor. One good thing about our tutoring program is that we have, for the 4A program, we have dedicated tutors just for our 4A students. So it's never about not having an appointment. It's never about not being able to get into the center. We have those tutors for those students. We do college visits, among many other things, as far as our direct services are concerned. I want to spend a little bit of time on our special programming. And our special programming is based on enrichment, modeling, accountability, and responsibility. We want the students to take responsibility for themselves, but also for their community. So the first thing we do is we try to enrich the whole person. We don't just focus on the academics, although we are a comprehensive academic support program. But we try to enrich the whole person. So we have student success specialists, case managers, that work on the non-cognitive and the career focus, and we have an intrusive advisor who advises all 75 to 85 of our students, and he doesn't just sit there and wait for them to come. He reaches out, he goes to get them, he brings them in, he makes sure they check in and check out at the beginning of each semester, at the end of each semester. He makes sure they have those intermittent check-ins to see how they're doing. The same goes with our case managers or our student success specialists. They're doing this as well. So those individuals, along with our grant coordinator, determine what workshops would help the students based on the conversations they have with the students and how we would enrich them. And so we do some of them as, interview skills, and some is resume, and some is public speaking, and some is how to start your own business, and some are based on your writing, and some are based on being able to make presentations, and others are tying the tie and doing things like that. And so we really try to enrich the whole person through our workshops, and we have about 3 of those per month. So we get a lot of chance to sit with our students at those times. As far as modeling is concerned, we also do a speaker series, and we've been fortunate to have people like Dewey Bozzella and Brian Banks and Barry Black, who is the United States Senate chaplain, come and tell their story of how they started in positions similar to our students and how they were able to overcome, or for Brian Banks, how he was wrongly accused and how he got his life back on track when he was given freedom. So we do certain series like You Can Achieve or So Life Isn't Fair. And our students really resonate with those programs. And then the accountability and responsibility piece is the mentoring. But it's not just the mentoring, because we have mentoring from professional mentors and we have mentoring through peer mentoring, but we also have reverse mentoring where our gentlemen go back into the high school and mentor some of those young men. So those mentoring programs have been going quite well, and they make quite the difference in what we do with our gentlemen. We've also started a service learning component to what we do, where we are planning a large service learning project, but also we do smaller monthly service learning projects where we head down to different places or shelters where we can serve food or help with their clothing or our pantry or whatever the situation might be. So those are some of the elements of our program design, and we don't have time to go through all of them today, but if you'd like to know more about it or find out how you can do that or what elements you didn't hear about, feel free to contact me. Assessment is so very important. and I know that everyone knows that assessment is important. It's important not just for creating, it's important for implementing, and it's important for sustaining. So we assess our services, we assess our personnel, we assess our overall program efficacy. And so our students might sometimes feel a little surveyed out, but the way we like to do our assessment is that it comes really right at the end of any of the services that they deal with. And at the end of the semester, I send out a director survey that deals with the overall program efficacy and the personnel to see if the individuals as well as the services are helping the students to succeed. And I just want to share some of the outcomes at this moment based on our assessment. So if we go to the next slide, you see academic outcomes. We have monitored our academic progress, and I didn't get to update it before this one for the semester just ending. But, you know, our GPA requirement is 2.0, so you see our average GPA. What really excites us is the increase in the grade point average from semester to semester for students who weren't in the program and then they were in the program. So we're looking at 20, 39, and 35 respectively. When we talk about graduation and transfers, the rates for Baltimore City Community College are even lower than for Pulaski Technical College. What you see here in these 3 semesters, we've been able to graduate 14 students and transfer 10 to other four-year institutions. And in the state of Maryland, there's a Senate Bill 740, and those students, as we continue to work with them, although they've transferred, we'll consider them reverse graduates at some point, bringing that 14 to hopefully 24 as those students continue to take courses at their four-year institution that will go toward their degree here. So we're excited about the progress that we're making, and yes, sometimes the advances are marginal, but you have to continue to plug away and not become discouraged, because for as many as you have graduated, you may have twice as many that don't continue or that fall through the crack or find their way out of the program. Some other outcomes that I'd like to share with you are the program satisfactions. We talk about our advising and the bus passes and the book program and the mentoring and so on and so forth. You'll see the students are responsive to that, and overwhelmingly we're seeing that the students are saying that they are satisfied with the services that they're receiving and that it's having a positive impact on their academic success. I mentioned overall program efficacy and a little earlier in the presentation, and when we talk to students about their sense of efficacy, we ask them, are they feeling more confident in class? Do they better understand assignments, how to study? Are they more focused? Do they worry less about what others think? Do they plan to go on and pursue a degree at the next level? And as you can see here on the outcomes, that the students are overwhelmingly feeling very confident about what's happening, and it's really impacting them in 95 and 96 and 97% as we move along. And then retention, as far as statistics are concerned, that's the sexy statistic. Everyone wants to make sure, are you retaining, are you completing? And so the one slide I'm showing you here is just based on our first cohort from year 1 to year 2, and we had 100% retention for our new entrants that were full-time, very high for our new entrants that were continuing, and a little bit of a decrease for our part-time continuing students, but we're doing well with retention. And as the numbers grow in the program, there is movement in the retention numbers, but this just speaks to our first cohort, but we're doing well in that area also. And then I think last but not least, I just want to give you, those of you who are talking about creating, those of you who are thinking about how you're going to do this, first and foremost, build a case for the initiative through data. What that means is look at the regional level, the state level, the institutional level, and the national level. Compare yourself. But you're going to have to become best friends with your IR department. That institutional research is going to be imperative, and your ability to create the case for it. So work with them to disaggregate the data, find what you need, be able to make those comparisons. I think dream big and acknowledge reality. What I mean by that is put everything you want into your plan. What do you think is going to help the students? Write that up. Make sure you're supporting that with data. However, identify early on what you can do without. You need to invest the money and the resources of what will work and what you know you absolutely must have. And then building and buying at the beginning stages. My colleague spoke to that. It's very important with regard to faculty and staff that you build buy-in, as well as the administration, those who have the purse strings, that you deal with those, but also the faculty in the classroom, because no matter how great your program is, if it breaks down in the classroom, your program will not be successful. And when you're implementing, don't start too big. meaning limit maybe your first cohort so that you can find out what you don't know. Your plan looks great on paper, but when you're implementing it with students, how is it really going to work? So don't start too big. Be flexible. You want to be willing to scrap something that isn't working, and you want to be able to implement new ideas. Don't stick to a failing idea because it was included in your grant narrative or that's what you told them you were going to do. Be willing to go back to your granting agency and amend some things for the next year or put more money here or more money there. Require what is good for the student. One of the lessons we've learned is when you're going to be so comprehensive in your offerings, don't be so desirous to get your numbers up that you don't require some things for the students. One of the things that we would have required if we had started, that we are requiring now is a true cohort model in which the students have to take the classes that you select for them so that they're on your educational plan, just as opposed to them coming in and saying, I want this, I want that, and we try to put them in with the students. So let them know these are the courses they're going to take. They're going to be in it with their brothers, with their 4A men, with their family, and that's going to help them as they go through the way. And then last but not least, assess your way to success. Make sure that you are assessing at every level. If you have an evaluator, we have an external evaluator. Allow him to do or whoever that person would be, require them to do an external evaluator, an audit of your program yearly so you can figure out what needs to be changed, how you can fix it, and then make that case, because scalability and institutionalization is what any boutique program or grant program is attempting to do. So scalability and institutionalization. The old adage says, put your money where your mouth is. So we have to try to limit boutique programs and make this situation, make these deficits institutional imperatives across the country in our higher education systems so that we're not just putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dwayne. And before I introduce our next presenter, I should note that we invited these three presenters in particular because they have and they use data in a way to inform the work that they're doing within the initiative, which, as we've heard, that's sort of been a recurring theme throughout our discussion thus far, is using data to assess program effectiveness and program outcomes. And these three programs are models that do a great job of that. And our next presenter is Felicia Ganther, and she's the Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Services at the Maricopa Community College District in Phoenix, Arizona. And she's going to talk with you specifically about the Male Empowerment Network. Felicia.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and maybe good afternoon to some of my colleagues on the East Coast. Let me first start by saying that the work, the design of the Male Empowerment Network is years of working with some very distinguished individuals across the United States and work and research on programs and services both at historically Black colleges and universities, historically or Hispanic serving institutions, as well as community colleges. So Male Empowerment Network came to be when I arrived. Actually, this is my 2-year anniversary in Phoenix, and it is really hot here, and but I'm enjoying it nonetheless. So what I'd like to do very quickly is go through these several bullet points and to discuss some of the specific things that I think were critical to the development of what we now call the Male Empowerment Network. So if you look at the bottom left, 2010, 2011, prior to my arrival at the district, there was a minority male initiative. It consisted of a conference and an advisory board, and that's pretty much all it did, was hold a conference to talk about male student success. What I, along with my district director of student affairs, Dr. Ray Ostos, we brought the advisory board together, and we also recruited students from across our district to sit down with us for a day-long retreat to talk about what are the needs across the district, and how can we do something different and more innovative with this project. Please understand that we are a district of 10 colleges. Each is separately accredited. Each has its own president, its own vice presidents, etc., that all report to a chancellor. We report that we have almost 250,000 students who attend either full-time, part-time, credit, non-credit, etc. We are 50% predominantly white, 25% Latino or Hispanic, and then 8% African American, 5% Asian Pacific Islander, 3% American Indian, and 9% other. As a result of our change, we've developed basically 5 points that we want to engage our students with, which is listed there. And we provide programming and support along those 5 things. What we have done in the previous, in 2013, is condense that to 3 standards, which is connect, commit, complete. And that is the motto that students use when they are speaking, when they're talking, when we're presenting, when we're explaining to students what the MIN network does and how we reach out to students. We have a commitment piece, and we have about 260 students, male students, who have committed, and they are active, and they have tenets that they must follow each year in their chapters. And then recently in January we had an additional 114 that joined and also committed. I will say that we probably service over 1,000 students, 1,000 male students throughout the year with our various initiatives and programs, because we're not interested in necessarily making them be a part of the organization, but we do ask them to participate in programs and services that they feel are necessary for their success. So here's the reason why we're doing what we're doing. You know, from our data, we have a lot of young male students who are interested in transferring on to get a bachelor's degree. They're also interested in degree completion. But the challenge is almost all of them are first-generation students. They have little to no college exposure, and for our district, they had the highest attrition rate. So what we tried to do was to develop 3 paths. The first path is the student-led organization, which is our MIN chapters. All of our campuses have MIN chapters. They're led by student officers. We have a student officer training. It operates very similar to a fraternal organization or a student club, but that particular piece is very critical to developing the brotherhood and the sense of belonging that they may not find anywhere else on campus. They are responsible for hosting events and programs, 50% social and 50% academic in nature. Then we have campus-directed programs. In our initial development of the MIN program, we wanted to make sure that the Vice President of Student Affairs and the Vice President of Academic Affairs, both of them signed on and committed to providing support to this initiative. So it is the responsibility of those 2 entities to make sure that they're providing enrollment assistance, advising assistance, academic workshops, and mentoring opportunities on their campus for these students. And we do not tell them how to do it. What we do is we meet regularly. We meet every month with our campus advisor teams, and we talk about the projects that they're planning and how they're going to implement it, and then we strategize as a team to help to make sure that it has some level of consistency. Then we have district-wide initiatives. These are initiatives that are planned from out of my office here at the district. We have sustained the annual men's conference. We send students to national leadership conferences, which is a very big plus for our students. We do academic boot camps. We do those prior to the beginning of each semester. And we also do a summer leadership retreat. and that is specifically to help the students to develop what they're going to do in their student-led organizations, and also what they would like to see either from the campus or from the district. The next major component is community collaboration, which is critical. It's critical because we do not have residence halls. And so when our students leave our campuses, they're going back to the community that they know. And so what we have attempted to do is to work with community organizations, fraternal organizations, churches, any businesses, any workforce development agencies, any community foundations, major corporations in our service area to provide certain things for our students. And as mentioned earlier, professional clothing is a very big thing. We do require our young men to dress up for certain events and activities, and to wear blue ties, which is our thing, blue, at events and when we're going out places. So we received a substantial amount of donations from the corporate community as it relates to that. We do a lot of networking. We utilize our professional connections. For instance, we had minority male professionals who work for the Arizona Diamondbacks Corporation, and our students not only spent the day at a game, but they also went into the back and learned about how they operate, how, you know, some of them got to the positions they're in, what it takes to be successful, etc. We're currently working on a project with Intel Corporation where they're going to align all of their employee groups to help develop a mentoring program where our students will go to Intel and spend time on the Intel campus and do some shadowing, etc. And then those mentors will then come and do specific initiatives at each of our college campuses to support professional development. So the most important thing that is critical for student participation is WIIFM, what's in it for me. And while the first one, increase access, persistence, and graduation rates, is not necessarily something that, you know, a student will be like, oh yeah, I really want to be involved because of this. But what we do is we create program and opportunities for them to participate in things that gets them to see that this type of behavior or this change in how I do things will help me to be more successful. Another critical piece is the connection. We work very hard with our college advisors and our vice presidents and their staffs to make sure that students have a direct connection. So we're not just telling the student, go over to academic advising. We're saying, we want you to go see so-and-so. That is the academic advisor for the MEN program. Another thing is the culture of success. Anytime we can get our young men together across the entire district, we do that. Recently, we took, I think it was 85 or 87 of our students to ASU, Arizona State University, and what we specifically requested is that they have their African American, Latino, Native American students, fraternal groups, organizations there to spend time with our students. So it's more than just a tour. It's about how to transfer and then how to belong, how to fit in, how to feel comfortable at ASU as you're transitioning. And the other thing is that we believe in prominence. And so anytime we can showcase our students, anytime we can submit them to be speakers or presenters for any initiative that's happening across our district, we will definitely suggest and put our students in the spotlight. And what we have found is that our students are consistently asking us, hey, if there's anything you want us to do, we want to do it. We had an opportunity with the Arizona Jazz Festival, and so we had 17 of our students were able to go, not only participate in the concert, but also to be a part of promoting the Maricopa Community College District. So those are the opportunities that we do in order to help with that. What we are attempting to do, I don't know if any of you are familiar with change management, but there are different stages in how you change and move things to where you want them to be. And so in this first year of change, we were really interested in creating awareness and creating desire. Those are very important things because as you're building or developing a project, that is the most important piece before you lay any other foundation. People need to be aware of it, and people need to have the desire to want to participate or support. Now we're moving to the knowledge and ability. Knowledge and ability deals with focusing on changing those behaviors, working to improve academic success, developing the ability to understand how to transition from the 2-year to the 4-year, those types of things, career development, etc. Those are the types of the initiatives that we're moving to. We're also moving to more focus on how can we provide more development for faculty and staff who are working with minority males. And so I know Don's on this one, and he's probably going to kill me, but I believe it's September. We're hosting a dialogue day, and that is for faculty and staff across the district, and Dr. Wood is going to be one of our special guests for that. We're also moving into parental and spouse support. What we found is that after our induction ceremony, we had an influx of families that were interested in knowing what we were doing. They were very impressed with the program. They were impressed with the fact that we took the time to do very specific and intentional activities with their sons, and they wanted to be involved as well. So we are creating a parental spouse support piece that will mirror the information and the messaging that we send out to our students. So what I'd like to say, I think my time is almost up. What I'd like to say is, one, start with a concept. The concept, do not solely rely on staff and faculty to develop or to craft what you are trying to put in place for minority male students. Do not do that. Make sure that you have students, and the number of students should either be equal to or more than the number of staff and faculty that you have involved in the development of the concept. The second thing is get executive buy-in, very important. Tie it to your strategic plan, tie it to attrition rates. What I've done is I've taken the attrition rates and turned it into how much money we lose just in losing those students. And surprisingly, we have a significant percentage of minority male students who are full-time. So if they drop out, that's a considerable amount of money that we are losing. Securing funding. We were very creative in how we secured funding. We do not have grants. We do not have specific line items. What we did was we approached the institutions and asked each of the institutions to pay for certain parts of the program so that we could then make sure that we were able to do the initiatives in the first year. Now that we've had such great success in the first year, we have sent requests to our chancellor, who has provided additional funding for us to do bigger and more sustainable initiatives. Prominence is very important. Make sure that the program's out there, that they see the students, in big numbers. Oftentimes, working with other colleges and communities dealing with underprepared or underserved students it's very small. Your program has 10, 15, 25 students. But when they see hundreds of students at a time. It is a different type of feel or effect, and so that's very important. Always make sure that whatever your logo or your theme, it's out there, that people see it, that it's not a mystery to anyone, that people can easily connect with what you're trying to do. Again, we changed to the 3 things: connect, commit, complete. People know that. Students know that, so it helps to definitely promote your program. Community involvement is very important. We work very closely with our universities as well. Arizona State University and University of Arizona are very committed to working with us in creating the pipeline. In fact, our students who recently graduated, those who are transitioning to 4-year institutions in our state, have already went to meet with the vice presidents there in order to start MIN chapters at those universities, and those universities are willing to assist with that. Get your students out there. You know, maybe you don't go to every conference that you want to go to. You send a student to another conference. There are a lot of conferences that they can participate in, but it gets them to see that this is a bigger issue. It's not just an issue in their neighborhood, but that they are a part of making a difference, and they come back really excited about doing what they can to help other young men to get involved and to be involved. The last thing I want to say is create a calendar. We calendar out the initiatives. Each of the chapters, they sponsor certain initiatives. We try to make sure that it's 50% academic and 50% social cultural. And so that creates a good balance of initiatives and activities that supports the success of our students. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And again, I'd like to thank Felicia, Kareem, and Dwayne for sharing what we believe are some critical insights in designing and sustaining a minority male initiative. I'd also like to point out that each of them, in one way or another, touched upon all of the key attributes of successful initiatives that we began the webinar with. So if you're listening to the recording, make sure you get a chance to revisit those and think about how they may come into play if you're designing at the beginning of designing an initiative, or if you have one and you're looking to enhance it in one way or another. I'd also like to think it's important for us to acknowledge 3 partners who aren't presenters on the webinar, but are also doing some important work. And that's Christopher Douglas at Grant County Community College in Texas, Ron Jackson at the Community College of Philadelphia, and Maurice Johnson, who's at the Community College of Baltimore County. Each of them have some leadership over a minority male initiative. They're doing important work. They're doing outstanding work in many respects. So those are 3 programs that you may consider revisiting as well. And then at this time, we're going to transition into the Q&A portion of the webinar for those who still have time to stay on. I also like to note that we're not going to record this portion of the webinar because we think it's important for us to be able to be candid and ask the questions that come up. So I'm going to end the recording now.